body composition point of view, muscle is it, which means lifting weights is it. So muscle's metabolically active tissue. It burns fat 24/7, just sitting there looking all sexy. So again, ladies, I would say don't be afraid of getting into the gym and lifting those heavy weights. Think of lifting weights like a passive income. It sits there working for you 24/7 while you're asleep, while you're out partying with your kids, whatever you're doing. And cardio is more like selling your time for money. You get the benefits of the time you put in. At most, maybe more so it is more likely to lead you to want to overconsume food after that exercise. Again, not hating on it. I'm just saying.
That was Kate Galli, and you've landed on the Me&my Health Up podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Hartcher. I'm a clinical nutritionist and lifestyle medicine specialist, aka the healthy man. The purpose of this podcast is to enhance and enlighten your well-being. And today we have Kate Galli to do that just for you. She has over 20 years experience in the fitness industry. She is a personal trainer, health coach, and podcaster. She's completed over 100 it's 830 episodes. Wow. So that's 9 years of podcasting. Such a delight to have Kate on our podcast today. And she's sharing the 5 weight loss myths, or the 5 fat loss myths associated with women and what you can do about it. So we're going to do some myth busting with Kate. So join Kate for this fantastic episode of Me&my Health Up. Welcome on the Me&my Health Up podcast. How are you doing, Kate?
Anthony, I'm doing fantastic. It is a pleasure to be here with you.
It's so great to be blessed with your company today, having produced over 130 plus, I think you mentioned 138 episodes on your podcast, 8 years of podcasting, personal trainer, health coach, incredible. So really look forward to you enlightening the well-being of the listeners of Me&my Health Up.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm really keen to explore the topic that you shared with me, which is the 5 myths sold to women and what they can do about it around weight loss, because I find there's so much propaganda out there from the weight loss companies, and they're, selling plenty of myths in order to get people to buy their products. It's all, driven by commercialism. And I'm really keen to help the listeners of Me&my Health Up to cut to the chase and to really support them through your myth busting, essentially.
Absolutely. And, I will say, Anthony, I fell for a lot of these myths myself. I first got into the gym around 25 years ago as a means by which to transform both my body and also my confidence. I was a debilitatingly shy teenager, and I loved the gym and the way that the confidence that you can achieve by transforming your body is applicable or transferable to many aspects of your life. I became a health coach and personal trainer around 18 years ago now. And one of the things I love most is to help individuals create the most effective mindset that makes their best eating and exercising choices simple and sustainable. Because as you shared, there's so much information out there. It's not a lack of information. It's maybe an abundance of confusing and conflicting information that we now have to negotiate to achieve the results we're looking to achieve.
100%, Kate. And I'm really keen to understand a bit more of that backstory you started to share with the listeners as to how you've arrived at being a health coach and personal trainer.
Yeah, so as I said, I probably joined the gym when I was around 18, and it was at the insistence of my father. I wasn't living at home. I'd moved out of home and I was living a bit of a party lifestyle, and I think he was into the gym, and he, I think, wanted to, get me on a more healthier road. I remember sharing with my father, but Dad, I'm not fat. And because that's all I thought it was about back then, right? As an 18, 19-year-old. Anyway, I joined the gym. It didn't last because I hadn't defined what I was looking to achieve, and language I wouldn't have used back then, but I use all the time with my clients now. I hadn't defined the goal, and I hadn't aligned the achievement of that goal with my most important values and beliefs. And that is something I am huge on right now for any of my clients and anyone listening out there. If you're looking to achieve a huge lifestyle change, the easiest way to do it is to align the actions that you need to take with everything else that is most important to you in your day-to-day life, so that you're not fighting yourself. The decisions you make then kind of become non-negotiable.
Absolutely. You've really touched on those intrinsic values of human beings that drive human behavior. And if they're not aligned, we self-sabotage. And it's essentially a mechanism to get us back to alignment and being our true selves. So really keen to explore this topic that you've raised around intrinsic motivation. Maybe starting with sharing, what were your intrinsic motivators at the time? What were your values at the time when your father said, "Oh, go to the gym, Kate, this will be good for you"?
Probably just like partying and having fun and spending time with my friends. And I wouldn't have even known the term values then, probably. And I will share, I guess, embarrassingly enough to admit, it wasn't until I was about, say, maybe 19 and at one of the pubs and clubs that my father was probably pretty intent on keeping me away from, I met a really buff guy. And it was a guy that looked like those fitness models in the magazines that you thought were kind of mythical and not attainable. And that was the first point in time where I kind of realized, hey, this is a normal individual that has created for himself amazing results within the gym, that maybe this is something that I can do as well. And as I share this now, as a nearly 47-year-old female, it sounds incredibly superficial and fake and kind of a low-value goal. However, that was where I was back in the day, and I guess I then approached my training in the gym. I rejoined the gym and I approached it with more of a focus on the results that I wanted to achieve. And I've changed my mind on a lot of things in those 2.5 decades. I now train a lot differently and more effectively to the way that I did back then. However, that was the starting point with, as you asked, Anthony, I guess the more kind of superficial goal and values behind it.
I guess at the time it probably wasn't a superficial goal. It was like really important around, and hence you're valuing connection at that point in your life.
True.
Like you valued your friends and heading out and having a good time with them, forging deeper relationships through having a good time. And I think what you saw in this guy was, I could connect with this sort of, connect with a male beyond my girlfriends. And what he valued was, I guess, looking good and physical appearance. And you thought, well, maybe there's something that I can get from the gym that would help me, I guess, increase that attraction to that male. I'm not sure.
You're right. And it's all about confidence. And for our listeners, whether they're young like I was then or whether they're older like I am now, I just love the ability of the gym to be able to help you transform, as I said, your body and your confidence. For a little bit of backstory, I was probably skinny fat. I was like very scrawny on top and a lot more heavy on bottom. And the gym taught me that we can actually choose our curves. We can add muscle where we want to add muscle, and we can't spot reduce. That's going to be one of the myths that we touch on down the track. However, we can drastically transform our body. And as you suggested, that allowed me to rock around with a lot more confidence than what I had been used to.
Wow. Yeah. So let's rip into the myths. You touched on one that you said you wanted to touch on later, but what is the one that you'd like to start with around, I guess, of the fat loss myths? Which one would?
100%. So I love acronyms. I've designed these as a 5-step acronym. It's so myth. The M in myth is all about minor movements. And particularly as ladies, we're kind of sold that if we dare to lift weights at all, it's about those small, minor, isolated type, single muscle, single joint movements, light weights, high repetitions, be afraid of adding on too much scary bulk and muscle. And that is absolutely a myth. A lot of what women need to do in the gym is the same as what men need to do in the gym. It's about prioritizing big compound movements, multiple muscles, multiple joints, lifting as heavy as what is safe for you. Safety first. However, nearly every single person I have trained, if they've been in the gym before, the weight that I lift them is much heavier than the weight that they had been lifting themselves. So that is myth number one, minor movements. Instead, we want to prioritize big compound movements. And ladies, don't be scared of muscle. It's harder than you would think to gain, and it is very rare. You have to be incredibly genetically gifted to chuck on too much muscle.
Not every woman wants to be muscular looking, right? No. It's not a desire for all women.
No, it's an aesthetic that I personally love. However, you would be surprised how much someone needs to train and how on point they need to be with their nutrition, their sleep, their everything to have that look that aesthetically you might think is too muscly.
And what are some of those examples of those compounded muscle movements?
Yeah, big compound movements like squats, lunges, deadlifts, chin-ups, shoulder press, bench press, all of those amazing movements. I will say, as I age, I also need to prioritize. We all need to prioritize some of the less fun stuff like foam rolling and stretching and adequate warm-up. And we don't just charge into the gym and grab the heavy weights like we might have in our 20s. And that goes for men and women, all of us.
Fantastic. No, great tips there in terms of, taking care of yourself, your safety, by not jumping into things and causing an injury, because obviously then that's going to slow you down in terms of your progress towards your goal. What's the other myth? So the why, we're up to the why now.
Yeah, so why is about youth or believing that a lack thereof is going to hold you back. So basically you can achieve the body you want, the health you want at any age. Don't be limited by what we're sold to by the media, that it's all about our age and our youthfulness and such. We don't have a use by date. We're not too old. Definitely, we do have to change some things as we get older. Maybe some things are a little bit tougher as we get older. But do you know what? We've also gained so much information, such a wider toolkit so far as the knowledge that we have in relation to what works for us as individuals, both physically and also from a mental or mindset point of view. So we really do have so much more to work with and so many lessons learned. And I can share a few of them if that works.
Yes, please.
For sure. So as I got older, I learned the importance of language and how powerful it is. And for example, if I were to say, I hate the gym versus I love how I feel after a workout, one is much more powerful and effective at getting me to do that workout. So if I've decided on what I want to achieve and I know what actions I need to take to achieve that goal, the gym is probably going to be one of those actions. And so I want to choose the language that helps me take that action. Or equally, I hate salads. They're so boring. I used to say that. First I learned to build better salads, but also I choose my language and I choose that I love the way a salad makes me feel as long as it's chocker full of all the goodness. I also now view exercise as a privilege and as precious me time. And I really recommend my clients and everyone listening to also view it that way. We're lucky that we get the opportunity to exercise. And, personally, it's as much about my mental health now as it's about the aesthetics. I think that's quite common as we get older. Next up, I would say it's important to learn about your daily discipline quota, and it's limited and it's likely higher in the morning. So if exercise is hard for you, schedule it early in the day where you have a more full daily discipline quota.
Oh, fantastic tips. I love starting with the wisdom of the ages, it's
100%.
Like the Eastern philosophy is, the older you get, the wiser you are. People look up and respect you more. Whereas in, Western culture, it's very much, don't get old. It's, it's terrible. It's all bad. And we haven't looked at the brighter side of getting older. And certainly, with me where I actually feel younger than I ever have, and and in a sense wiser. So I certainly have embraced the aging. I've let my hair go and embraced the new me.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I love that how you mentioned about language and that internal dialogue that we have with ourselves. And, we have the ability to change that and to work with dialogue that's actually going to take us towards our goal, as opposed to dialogue that's going to repel us or, provide some resistance. That internal dialogue is really important to, you shared some of the benefits of doing exercise is how you feel afterwards. The benefits of eating a salad is how you feel afterwards. You feel lighter, you feel energized, you feel satisfied, and it's not terrible. In a sense, you can make a great salad.
You can.
Yeah. It's really, really love that share around the why.
100%.
Yeah, you got anything else to add?
No, I think again, I completely agree with you regarding language and mindset. You're the only person that is with you 24/7 in your own head 24/7. So you better believe it's important to ensure that language is supportive. Myth number 3, which is the T in our little acronym. T is all about treadmill trudging, or put another way, cardio to lose fat. That is the myth that we're sold. It is just not true. I'm not hating on cardio. If you love it, amazing. And it has so many health benefits for sure, and longevity benefits. However, from a body composition point of view, muscle is it, which means lifting weights is it. So muscle's metabolically active tissue. It burns fat 24/7, just sitting there looking all sexy. So again, ladies, I would say don't be afraid of getting into the gym and lifting those heavy weights. Think of lifting weights like a passive income. It sits there working for you 24/7 while you're asleep, while you're out partying with your kids, whatever you're doing. And cardio is more like selling your time for money. You get the benefits of the time you put in. At most, maybe more so it is more likely to lead you to want to overconsume food after that exercise. Again, not hating on it. I'm just saying, so far as prioritizing, I would strongly suggest locking weights into your schedule first and foremost.
Absolutely. And leveraging that 8th natural wonder of the world, which is the compound effect.
Amazing.
It applies equally to health as what it does to our wealth. So yeah, thanks for sharing that tip around, not shy away from the weight and embrace it. And you've got those little incremental gains you can see, in terms of turning up at the gym, and you can see that you're lifting, you're a bit stronger, and, you feel good about, getting stronger. It's starting to see a benefit. And it's, I think it's great to, see that incremental progress, because it's something that you keep coming back for, because you see that it's having a positive effect around strength and as you said, mental health. It's really, empowering around mental health. You got anything more on the T to add?
I just want to say, I love your comparison between health and wealth. It's been my privilege to train over the past 18 years a lot of incredibly successful men and women. And what I love is seeing that basically the standards that work for you and that you apply to your success in business can be transferred across to your success in your health. And the reverse is also true. And so I do love that comparison. Myth number 4 is hungry and hangry, or framed another way, that less is best with food. It absolutely isn't. I absolutely did fall for this myth myself. However, now my approach is to eat better, not less, to focus on a huge, abundant, colorful, diverse range of whole food. As a personal trainer said to me probably like over 20 years ago, he said, the less you eat, the less you have to eat. And I was like, well, that's unfun. And to a degree, the more you exercise, the more you have to exercise. You can do too much of that as well. So now it's about, as I said, building those beautiful, abundant meals that you love and focusing on what you're giving your body. And further to that, I would say I kind of have a series of questions that I recommend our listeners ask themselves if they're looking to adopt any new lifestyle change in relation to their nutrition. And one of this is to ask yourself, is this a way of eating that I could joyfully maintain for the rest of my life? So no quick fixes. Is this a lifestyle approach that will work for me while I'm on holiday, while I'm visiting friends, if I'm sick, if I'm crazy busy with work? Again, how sustainable is it? Next, does this reflect a supportive relationship with my body? So again, it's about what you're giving your body. You and your body are a team, and you're on the same team, and it's about love and working together. And I would say finally, and probably most importantly, is this a way of eating that aligns with my most important values and beliefs? So back to those values and beliefs.
Yeah, I love how you touched on that concept of sustainability, because that's what the diet industry promotes, is unsustainable approaches to weight loss.
Yeah.
And so it's a big myth you're busting there, because all those diets that are promoted are unsustainable.
Yeah.
They're unsustainable in terms of being able to stick with them, and hence the yo-yo effect, because people go on them, and then where do they go afterwards? They go back to what they're doing before, and on comes back the weight. So I really love how you share that sustainability point, as well as it aligns with your beliefs around you have very much earth-based and plant-based and looking after the planet. And so that whole sustainability concept goes beyond what we eat. So I really like how you share that, and particularly how you said that food is there to nourish our body. It's not there as something that is forbidden, or we shouldn't we shouldn't have this guilty consciousness about the food. It is what it is, and it serves us in certain aspects depending on what we're eating and depending on what our health goal is. So really loved how you touched on those key points there. Anything else to add?
No, I absolutely agree with everything that you said. And myth number 5 is about short term, or the silver bullet, or the quick fix. As we've touched on, Anthony, that is a myth. It doesn't exist. It is about what is sustainable for you long term. And the marketing is out there to persuade us that, this is the one thing. There's never one thing. It's always many things. It's never a quick fix. It's always less sexy, but consistent, sustainable, sometimes boring and tedious actions. And that is what lets us get and lets us keep the results. So don't fall for short term or silver bullet.
Absolutely. Go for the long-term gratification and see it as a journey. I've always embraced that lifelong, constant and never-ending improvement. And so how can I improve my health? How can I improve my wealth? How can I improve giving back to the world, and in all aspects? It's that, those 1%ers that you're always looking to work on. So it's a journey. It's not a destination, so to say.
You are so right. In relation to whatever is most important to us, we never just get there, right? We're always looking to be constantly evolving, and, to enjoy the journey is to work on. For me, I'm getting much better at it. But in the same way as a body composition goal, you can really, really, really focus on the goal, whether it be health or wealth or whatever it is. The journey is much more joyful when you learn to also enjoy and appreciate and be mindful of those steps that you need to take every single day.
It just reminds me of a recent car trip on the way back from holidays. We had a 10-hour car trip, and my wife was getting a bit frustrated because she just wanted to get home, and she was thinking of all the things she needed to do, once she got home, and then, the association with getting home and going back to work and all that. And so starting to really compound that sort of negative thinking process. And I was very much thinking, well, I'm here. I'm just going to embrace the journey and enjoy it. And I was singing along with my daughter. And that 10 hours just went really quickly.
Amazing. Yeah, it's precious family time, right? You're stuck there, but it's precious family time.
100%. And I think it's the same as the gym. Is like, if you go in there with the mentality is I just want to get it over and done with and finished, then you're missing out on the opportunity to really enjoy the gym session and to really feel the body as it's not like a means to an end. It's essentially part of a continuum. And I think that's another thing that, that's that short-term thinking that I just got to finish this, and then, what's next? And it's always focusing on the what's next, as opposed to living the now and embracing the now and really enjoying the journey of life and not worrying about what's next.
100%. And in the gym, the more mindful and focused you are, the better results you're going to get for the time that you spend there. You know, the mind-muscle connection has absolutely been proven. So if you're going to take that time away, especially if you don't love the gym, if you're going to take that time away from everything else that is more important to you, then certainly you want to have the best possible results for your time. And that means focus on what you're doing at that present moment.
100%. Yeah, thanks for sharing the myth busting. I really like the acronym. I liked everything that was, within that acronym. It really resonated with me, and I'm sure it resonated with the listeners. Is there any other concluding words you'd like to part with the listeners?
I often fall back on the importance of backing yourself 100%. Whatever you're looking to achieve, whether it's health related, body composition related, whatever it is, we're living in uncertain times. We always have. Perhaps more so in the past few years, we've become aware of it. So I'm a huge advocate for, although you can't have certainty in what's coming up today, tomorrow, next month, next year, you can have certainty in you. You can back yourself to know that you're going to come up with the goods, again, in relation to whatever is most important to you. So I would share that with the listeners. Whatever is most important to you in your life, just back yourself and have certainty in your ability to come through for you.
Fantastic. I love those concluding words, Kate. And it's back yourself. I love it. So how can the listeners best connect with you?
Best place to connect with me is via strongbodygreenplanet.com. That's my website. It connects to my new book, The Plant Positive Journal. It connects to my podcast, which is actually over 830 episodes in. So on that, I chat to compassionate and passionate activists, authors, entrepreneurs, doctors, and it is my heart. I love that podcast. So again, strongbodygreenplanet.com.
Fantastic. And I'll certainly put that link in the show note to the listeners. And as Kate was sharing that, there was an ambulance going in the background or some siren. I was thinking, yeah, you really need to check this website out. It's urgent.
Oh, it's funny.
So thanks so much for joining the Me and My Health Up listeners today, Kate. Really appreciate your input, and you've added so much value to the show.
Anthony, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And thank you, listeners. If you enjoyed today's episode with Kate, those insights, and you know that they could be of benefit to someone else, please share the episode with them, and so that we can enlighten and empower the well-being of others. Please, share that candle, allow it to shine bright, and pass it on. So thank you, listeners, and thank you, Kate. Podcast disclaimer. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions or statements within it do not constitute medical, healthcare or professional advice and are provided for general information purposes only. All care is taken in the preparation of the information in this podcast. Connected Wellness Proprietary Limited, operating under the brand Me and My Health Up, does not make any representations or give any warranties about its accuracy, reliability, completeness, or suitability for any particular purpose. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it are not to be used as a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, psychiatric, or any other mental health care or healthcare in general. Me and My Health Up recommends you seek the advice of a doctor or qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Inform your doctor of any changes that you may to your lifestyle and discuss these with your doctor. Do not disregard medical advice or delay visiting a medical professional because of something you hear in this podcast. This podcast has been carefully prepared on the basis of current information. Changes in circumstances after publication may affect the accuracy of this information. To the maximum extent permitted by the law, Me and My Health Up disclaims any such representations or warranties to the completeness, accuracy, merchantability, or fitness for purpose of this podcast and will not be liable for any expenses, losses, damages incurred, indirect or consequential damages or costs that may be incurred as a result of the information being inaccurate or incomplete in any way and for any reason. No part of this podcast can be reproduced, redistributed, published, copied, or duplicated in a form without prior permission of Me and My Health Up.